All right, Kai, welcome to the archive.
What up?
So, Kai, your grandfather was John Updike.
He sure was.
All right, Kai. So, tell me, was your grandfather an author?
Yeah, he was. He rose to prominence in the 1960s with the book Rabbit Run, and he wrote a whole bunch of sequels to those. Rabbit is Rich, Rabbit at Rest, etc. Or Rabbit Redux, I think, was the direct sequel. And he also wrote a number of other books, including the Beck books, and one of my favorites is Terrorist, which is about the life of a young Islamic radical who later turns to terrorism. 2006 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So what was Rabbit Run about? What made that cause him to rise in the world of writing?
Well, from my understanding, Rabbit Run was so. Rabbit Run is what it's about. I guess is this guy. Basically, his name is Harry. His nickname is Rabbit. He peaked in high school. He's one of those guys. In high school, he was this professional he was a basketball player. Everyone loved him. He was a star of his team. And then now, he's an adult. He's like in his early 20s or something, and he's married, and he's like living a kind of mundane life. And he starts having an affair with this other woman. And he keeps running from his problems, and a priest is trying to fix him, and it's just basically about like this guy who's kind of a serious asshole. I think it became really famous, like really, it was well received because of its like grittiness and real nature.
And that wasn't seen before in written word.
Well, I mean, he was like one of many authors around that time in the late 50s, early 60s that was writing in that kind of style, and I guess he was unique because of his like, really intense descriptions of mundane objects. Really setting the scene for everything that for your surroundings, and also his very graphic sexual depictions as well. If you read that book Rabbit Run, there's like lots of like really like really intensely written sex scenes. So that's what he was well known for, and. In the way I see it, he's more of he's not really like the author for the common person exactly. He's a literary critics novelist. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So he wrote all the things that were not for everyday people.
Yeah, but it was about everyday people. Yeah. That's the thing. It's because he grew up in like. He grew up in a working class family in Pennsylvania. Or was he working class? I actually have no idea. He probably was.
Did he ever talk to you about what that was like, growing up in Pennsylvania, working class?
Not really. he never really mentioned any of that. Like, I actually learned most of his early life after he died, I think, in 2009. Mm-hmm. When we went to, there was like the family homestead in Pennsylvania. And then, there's this whole celebration of life in New York City. That was interesting. Like, famous people showed up to that.
That
was like the first time I think that like I really understood. Oh shit! Like my grandfather was kind of a huge deal.
Okay. Okay. All right. So were all of these rabbit books about that one character, Henry Rabbit?
Yeah. So like. His name is Harry Armstrong, I think. Rabbit's his nickname because he's quick like a rabbit. So like the rest of the Rabbit books like follow his life, afterwards. In the first Rabbit book, his wife kills their baby, like drowns the baby in the bathtub. It's a really fucking horrifying scene. And then like the rest of the Rabbit books are about his life afterwards.
Did anyone ever talk or did he ever talk about his influences or why he wrote those books?
I mean, not to me. I'm I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know. I was kind of he died when I was 14, and I didn't really have much of an interest in literature back then. Although, ironically, I did write a terrible novel when I was 13 and made him read it.
You made him read it?
I made him read it. He finished it before he died.
He finished it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel bad. It was a terrible book. But he
was that is devotion right there.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't very long.
Okay.
But dear God. But he never talked to me about like who his influences were. I always considered it like what I was always told is that he was just sort of like influenced by like his life growing up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then moving to New England.
Mm-hmm. So how did he describe Pennsylvania?
How did he describe Pennsylvania?
Yeah, did he tell you about whether
like I said, he never told me anything about his life
never
in
did.
Pennsylvania. No, not really. Again, like I learned about his early life after he died.
Okay. All right. Did he ever did he ever talk to you about other authors or anybody he may have been affiliated with, like Kurt Vonnegut?
I think my mom mentioned Kurt Vonnegut once. I'm fairly certain like he was kind of associated with him. And like every now and then his author friends would show up at their house, and they would discuss
whatever,
all sorts of like literary stuff or whatever. Like interviewers would come and show up. Like in that time, like my mom was a little kid, so like she she saw all these strange people coming in and like talking to her dad and like
then leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he wrote the Rabbit Run books. What did he write after?
So the Beck books were kind of big. He wrote this whole biography on one of the founding fathers. A lot of his books have Christian themes. Mm-hmm. I believe he grew up Episcopalian, I believe. And so he was kind of in the same headspace, I guess, as like, I don't know, people like C.S. Lewis, or Tolkien, like being an Anglican Christian. One of his most famous novel, aside from Rabbit Run, I would say, is The Witches of Eastwick. Mm-hmm. The movie version of which was filmed in Ipswich, Massachusetts, at the Crane Estate, starring Jack Nicholson, Cher, a few other big name actors at the time.
Did he never talk about his writing at all, or with work, or
really not when I was growing up. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even register that he was like a huge deal until after his death. Mm-hmm. We had all of his books in our house and shit, and like they were always there, but like I didn't realize like how famous and important to the world of literature he was.
Okay.
Like he was just my grandpa.
Yeah, he was just grandpa.
Yeah, no, literally, like he would come over and like have like tea with us. Sometimes take us to go see movies.
Okay.
And that was it. That was just he was just grandpa. And then we would go over to his house and it was like colossal, like very wealthy.
Yeah.
But like,
did he was he really big into movies?
He did like movies, yeah.
Okay. Did he have a favorite movie?
I kind of remember him enjoying. Well, like when I was younger, it was like, let's see, like 2002-ish is when the Spider-Man movie came out. I remember him really liking Spider-Man.
So he's a superhero fan.
Yeah.
Who would have thought this guy that is known for introducing this really graphic, gritty literature is a fan of superheroes like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there other things he was into at all?
Golf. I remember him really liking golf.
Okay. Did he teach you how to play golf?
I mean, I think he taught my brother and my cousins. I've never been into golf or really any other sports, to be honest. But no, he didn't really teach me how to play golf. I do remember one time when, sometimes we would go to his private beach, or it wasn't his private beach. It was just sort of he paid to have access to this beach.
Okay.
Sort of like a private beach for rich people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would go to that beach every 4th of July to see the fireworks.
So did he have an interest in fantasy books or magic at all?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, because the Witches of Eastwick involves magic shit. I think that that was mostly later in his career when he was doing that. In the 80s and 90s, he was doing that. Whereas back in the 60s, when he first started, it was more realistic shit.
Mm-hmm.
The gritty, down to earth.
This stuff happens to people every day, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then later on in the 80s, 90s, he started doing the whole, magical realism kind of thing. Witches of Eastwick, the Brazil book, and then I guess in the mid 2000s, he did Terrorist, which was a very interesting account of this boy driven to radical Islam by a crazy preacher. So that was I can't remember if it was I think it got kind of mixed reviews. I liked it. My dad it was my dad's favorite Updike book. I think. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the last book you wrote?
No, I think he wrote a couple more before his death, but that it was very close to the last one. That was 2005, 2006 or something like that.
Okay.
And he died in 2009.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I think he wrote one or two more. Rabbit Remembered is one that he wrote. I think that was after Terrorist, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a posthumous, Rabbit had died, and this was his, just sort of a story about people who knew Rabbit, I guess.
Okay. So 2009 rolls on in.
Yep.
And he dies.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember the funeral at all?
Yeah, it was it was in some small church somewhere.
Was it somewhere he attended to?
I don't know. I don't know if he ever went there.
Okay.
I mean, he might have.
Was he a churchgoer?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay.
He did attend church.
All right. So
he was,
okay.
He was a fairly religious man. He wasn't he was no crazy radical or anything, but he did profess Christianity.
Okay. So all right. So his funeral's in a church.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to New York, and in New York,
that wasn't the funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. New York wasn't the funeral. That was something else.
Okay. So after the funeral, you go to New York, and in New York, that's when you get to find out just how big of a deal your grandfather was.
Yeah, I remember Me and my cousins had some very, very interesting experiences in New York. We stayed at the Chelsea Hotel, which I believe is now defunct, but the Chelsea Hotel, I don't know if you know this, is famous for having like all sorts of celebrities roll through.
Okay.
Like, I don't like to my recollection, people like Jimi Hendrix and and Prince would stay there and like, have cocaine fueled orgies and shit. lots of like drunken celebrity debauchery in the Chelsea Hotel, but
was your grandfather ever like that at all, or did he not partake in the?
He was never into like drugs or anything like that, but
Okay.
he did like sex. He did like women.
He loved women.
Yeah. So he was married to my grandmother for like I don't know how many years. I think like my mom was a teenager when they were divorced, or something like that. So that must have been in the 70s. The woman I remember him being married to was my step grandmother Martha, who was a little bit snobby from my recollection. Martha, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. you're a lovely woman. But listen, Martha. We weren't gonna wreck your house, She wouldn't let us go explore the house. She was like an old socialite.
Okay.
But I do know prior to his marriage to Martha, from what I heard, he did fuck around a bit.
Okay. All right. So he had a lot of women. All right. So the Chelsea. So you stayed at the Chelsea Hotel. Mm-hmm. Did you find like Mick Jagger's former stash or something there?
I wish. So at the Chelsea Hotel, it was a oh man, it was such a bizarre experience. Like we ran into all sorts of weird characters in New York. We were staying at the hotel. I'll never forget this. Like we had there was this distinct this very vivid memory we all have. Me, my brother, and our two cousins, Trevor and Sawyer. We went to we decided to explore the hotel, and we were going up the elevator, and I guess there was only one floor above us, and this he struts on in, and he's like, going up? We're like, yeah. And then he's like, why didn't you take the stairs? And my cousin Sawyer says, oh, we were just too lazy. And then he says, he scoffs. He's like, too lazy? More like too ugly. And then he gets out of the elevator, and then he turns around, and he's like, are you going to walk out? Or should I carry you? And then he just struts down the hall. So that's the kind of people we fucking ran into in New York. And then we went to this big celebration of John Updike's life. And I distinctly remember they didn't have any everyone was drinking booze and they didn't have any water. They didn't even have any club soda or anything like that. They just had ice. I remember being thirsty and being like, do you guys just have water? I was 14, so he's like, oh well, we've got ice. It's everyone's an alcoholic, I guess. What was the name of the actress that showed up? Yeah, Rachel Weisz.
Okay.
Who at that time was had starred in The Mummy. So she was at that celebration. I don't know. I rarely ever get starstruck. Mm-hmm. Stars are just people like you and I. They just happen to be famous.
All right. So was there any point when somebody specific to the world of literacy or entertainment that came up and explicitly acknowledged what kind of contributions your grandfather gave?
I'm sure there were a bunch, but I didn't recognize any of them because
Yeah, but like, was there a specific moment where someone just like walked up and explicitly said, "It's like John Updike gave to the world"?
Well, I mean, like there were quite a few speeches.
But was there one like memorable that clicked for you and you realized, oh wait a minute, this is what my grandfather did?
No, not one particular thing. It was like sort of just a combination of things. I never had like an aha, like revelation moment. It was just sort of like, oh, that's interesting. You know, I didn't realize how big my grandfather was.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Do you feel like he's got a specific legacy for the world?
A specific legacy for the world.
It's not something that he's specifically left behind that you might see in like movies today or change the course of literature.
Oh, geez, I don't know. Like I said, he was always, I think, you know, he wasn't like a pop novelist. You know what I mean? Like he was very popular among like literary critics.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because today when if I ever say to people, oh yeah, my grandfather was John Updike, I get one of two reactions. Either, oh my god, your grandfather was John Updike? Oh my god, that's fucking amazing! Holy shit, can I have your autograph? Or number two, who's that? Never heard of him. You know, so he filled kind of an interesting niche. It's usually either like people who are like really into literature, or like, you know, older people, you know, around like maybe my mom's age or older, you know, who say like who are really impressed. Whereas like, you know, the like younger people don't really know much about him. Like they might have like read one of his stories in their high school English class or something.
All right, because nowadays there's a lot of really like gritty, realistic stuff that you might see in like something like Rabbit Run. Like people make, you know, like Breaking Bad as an example. That was a profoundly huge series. Or I'm not going to say a direct influence, but like Game of Thrones, you know, realistic medieval politics about people killing each other off to try and make it on top. Do you think he might have like done something to help pave that way where people could put that on camera?
Yeah, he could have. You know, he was one of many. You know, that was a time period when many authors were coming out and, you know, and doing that kind of thing. You know, another example, a little bit before him, J.D. Salinger with Catcher in the Rye. That, like, at that time, in the, you know, when did that come out? Like 1950 or something like that. That was shocking. Like people were like, holy shit! Like, you know, this kid is just like swearing and like, you know, and being an asshole. And, you know, that I think, you know, Salinger's works, I think, paved the way for Updike. You know, and I get, you know, it was kind of like a progression of authors, just sort of like paving the way for each other. I'm not sure if it was like, you know, one particular person. You know what I mean? Whether that be Salinger or my grandfather or someone else. I know this though. He is one of only 3 authors to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction more than once. So that's a big accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think people should be reading John Updike?
Yeah, why not?